Hello and welcome to Uncapped, where we lift the lid on natural and low-tox lifestyles using essential oils. I am your host, Jess Raitt. Today I am absolutely thrilled to be welcoming a very special guest to the couch with me, the ever-inspiring Zach Aurelius. Zach and I only met a few weeks ago, and yet our conversation flowed so beautifully that I know you are going to take some pearls of wisdom out of today's conversation. Zach has a beautiful perspective in incorporating essential oils and supplements into a holistic and integral way of living. Get your pens and paper ready because today's conversation is going to be inspiring and I think it's going to be pretty incredible. Zach, thank you for joining me on Uncapped today. How are you?
Hey Jess, I'm well and I really appreciate your kind words. So thank you, and thank you for being so welcoming.
Oh, you are just so delightful to speak with, and I have been looking forward to this conversation for a couple of weeks now because I really feel like our community is going to resonate with what you have to say. So to begin, I'd really love to know what your beginning was with dōTERRA. How did you come across our essential oils and this more integrative way of living?
So with the more integrative way of living or conscious way of living, supporting health, I'd been on that journey for quite a while. I discovered that in Spain, actually, when I was traveling. I was not a good traveler. I couldn't quite work it all out, ran out of money very early. And I ended up in the south of Spain feeling quite lost, and I ended up on a farm. And the woman who owned the farm was from Germany, and she was growing all her own food on this farm and cooking it. And I started to work on the farm supporting her and was exposed to that way of living. And I didn't quite know what it was. I was very young. I was just loving the environment and doing yoga under the stars and swimming in these water systems called acequia systems, which is snow melt from the mountains.
Wow.
And eating this food from her table and working in the soil. But after a number of months, something unfolded for me, like how I felt in my body was radically different than anything I'd experienced before. And I felt incredibly vital and vibrant and connected with the earth. So it was a very significant experience, and that took me on a journey into discovering my body. And when I returned from Spain, I started to do some work, laboring work, and I herniated a disc. And for the first time, there was a problem with my body. I had not experienced that before. And I tried a number of modalities. I couldn't really get much success, and then did Pilates. And that opened me up to a new way of discovering my body. And then through that journey, I got into health. So I wasn't new to that. And I owned a Pilates studio when I met Anastasia, my beloved fiance. And she had discovered the oils, not far off the time that we met. And so a year or so, 2 years down the track, we had a baby, and I was learning to become a father, quite the journey. And on that journey, Anastasia began to introduce me to how to use the oils with our children. And so that was really empowering for me. And I remember my aha moment with the oils, because I trusted the oils. I had done my research. I trust nature, where the oils come from. I trust my own body, and I was using them on my own body, but I didn't know how to use them practically. And so I remember this one night, Anastasia was sleeping, and we got woken up by our daughter crying. And my daughter was just lying there in pain. And so that's really hard for a parent, to see your child in pain.
Yeah.
And it's like, what can I do moment? And Anastasia, in a very sleepy voice, said, just get some Digestion and put it with some coconut oil and rub it on her belly. And so I did that, and there was an immediate response. You know, she was able to move some wind. She stopped crying. It was like this triumph moment, you know. And even though Anastasia had given me the little tip and dōTERRA had provided the oils, I felt like I'd done that for my baby.
Yes.
And it was really powerful moment for me. So that was my aha moment with the oils, and we've integrated the oils into every aspect of our life since then, which is a decade now.
Isn't that incredible? It's that empowerment. And I know exactly what you mean when you use the tools in your toolkit. When you find something like fractionated coconut oil and Digestion, and you can use it to support either your own well-being or support a pain or an irritation with your child, and that feeling that you get that you've been able to help support their way back into a positive frame of mind is really special, and it becomes addictive. You want to be able to have that toolkit expanded and look at all the different ways that you can integrate these natural support mechanisms into your way of being. So how have you, I guess, built up a bit of more of a holistic lifestyle using those essential oils? What are some practical tips that you can share with us?
So to me, listening to the body and learning what the body is communicating is really essential to health, for us to be healthy. And so what I love about the oils is plants are amazing at that, at communication, the molecules, the way they work in the body. So I discovered, like when I first started with the oils, I can get overwhelmed by too much information.
Yeah.
And so I started with the emotions book. I would like, what oil might help me with this emotion today? And so I began to get to know the oils that way. But what I felt happening with the oils is they would enhance how I was communicating with my body. And I noticed this too in my Pilates studio. So I began diffusing the oils in the little waiting room of my Pilates studio. And typically people would come in and have various states going on, sometimes very stressed or different negative energies that they were experiencing, or toxic or whatever. And then when they began with me, we would begin the work of releasing that and changing their state. But what I noticed, because I was very tuned into my clients, was I would say be diffusing lemongrass or easy air or something in the waiting room, and someone who is typically quite stressed would come in and sit there, and I could feel the energy. I'm very responsive to people's energy fields. And then all of a sudden they'd go, and I'd be like, they didn't used to do that. That would happen when we started our session, not before our session started. And I realized it was the oils. And so they were, in that moment, when you think about it, becoming more aware of themselves in that moment. The oils were somehow inspiring that. So that's one, is the listening to the body and how the oils improve that. But then a flow on from that is, okay, what does my body need today? How am I going to support that? And often our body just needs the building blocks. The body knows what to do. It has an innate intelligence, particularly if it's working with a molecule that is already natural. And so, what does my body need today? How am I feeling? I'm feeling upset here. My digestive system needs some support. And so then I can apply an oil that I know will support my digestive system. So to me, that is the way that I've approached what we might call holistic health. And I find the term interesting to just digest for a moment. And that is that it's wholeness. And that's what health means as well. Like if you look at the root of the word health, to heal, it's wholeness. And so I really feel like we are not this isolated body. We're very much connected with the environment. We're connected with the air we breathe, with the water we drink. And so we are part of an ecosystem, which is what I studied at university. So I studied ecosystems. But we are an ecosystem. Our body is an ecosystem. And the ecosystem doesn't stop at the skin. And so to me, it's like, how are we continually supporting that nerve, not just our sort of ecosystem, but each of the sort of specific systems within our body. And so the oils support education, because my healing journey or my health journey started with learning about myself, learning about my body. How does it work? What does this do? What supports this? And so I think the oils really support us to deepen that inquiry, not try and outsource that somewhere, which I think is a big mistake. We can just actually learn about our bodies and support them. So they're the fundamental philosophies behind how the oils support. And then from there, there's just no end to how the oils support us. Whether it's, we've got nutritional supplements now, which I'm using a lot. And so there's places in our diet or in our sourcing of food that have gaps. We need to fill those gaps with something. So if my body needs a particular mineral or vitamin or nourishment of some form, where am I going to get that from? Is it coming from the food that I'm eating? And we have soil depletion problems or nourishment problems. So the food that we used to eat that was full of certain ingredients is lacking in those ingredients. So I think just understanding, how can I support myself in all aspects of life?
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, you are so incredible to listen to because you put that perspective back onto yourself. I think that, and you, as you mentioned, are very receptive to energies. And so you probably picked up that I was rushing today, that it's been busy to get the kids into the car, to get to work, to get in front of the camera and do a shoot like this. And I have to say I'm very appreciative for you taking a few moments to help share some quiet times together where we could ground ourselves and bring ourselves back into our centre to really remember what our purpose and our focus is. And to that point, I think in society, I know myself, I'm constantly running the race and I forget as a mum to put myself first, to recognise what's possibly happening with my body, what's possibly happening with my mind, any aches and pains or any emotional imbalances. And we forget that we need to fill our cup up first so that we're able to then give to others. Like the airplane, the air hostesses say, you always put your oxygen mask on first before you help those around you. And that's, I think, a really, really important point, that what you bring, and it's so special. And I have to be honest, I haven't experienced this in a while. I haven't met someone that's gently reminded me to remember me and to focus back on what's important, because I need to refill back my cup. So I want to thank you for that. So it's very special. And then to that point, we do have these tools. We do have these resources available, and the knowledge, the experience is endless. Our exploratory nature of essential oils, it is endless because we're consistently learning about what they can do to help support us. But as you mentioned, supplements are really important to fill in those gaps so that we do feel like we're focusing more on our holistic health, that 360 approach to our well-being. So what specifically do you do, say, in the mornings or throughout the day that helps to fill in those, say, nutritional gaps?
Yeah, that's a good question. And just to touch on, thank you for your words. I'm a parent too, know exactly what that's like. And one of the key areas that the supplementation and the essential oils, because they're so easy to apply, they're so quick and easy to apply, one of the areas they really helped me was before family, I had endless hours. I would meditate, I would do Tai Chi, all sorts of things. And quickly discovered with babies that the time that I had was these little narrow windows. And so I needed other ways, other strategies, other tools to support myself in that way. And the oils were wonderful for that. And so that would be one answer to that question. Like, what ways do I use the supplements? I've just been on a plane. I've stayed in a hotel. There's a lot of air conditioning. I'm in a restaurant with lots of people with various conditions. And I could feel when I stepped out of the hotel that a little boost to my immune system would be helpful. And so I was able to get a On Guard soft gel out of my bag and just take it there and then. So when you think about that, I didn't have to go and source that from a shop or go somewhere specific. It's like in my bag in this little tiny capsule. So that's gold, to have that access. But going back to my sort of mornings, I find that when I first get up, at the moment I'm doing the Advantage, so the MetaPower Advantage, and I've definitely been noticing great improvements in mental clarity and various things in my body with that. So I begin with that in the mornings, and I drink water. For obvious reasons. I find that hydrating first thing is really, really helpful. If you look at the fascia of the body, which is the connective tissue, and it's responsible for the communication throughout the cells, that's all liquid. It's all droplets of water. So we drink filtered water and we use those supplements. I'm right into my gym work at the moment. I know I did years of Pilates, but there's just something about lifting weights at the moment that's just working for me. I'm just having lots of fun. And the oldest boy in our house is 15, and so it's a bonding thing that I do with him.
That's great.
So I'm loving the protein supplements that dōTERRA have provided. I was very excited that they've brought those out, and they're a hit in our family. So they are. We're going through them very quickly.
So are we. My kids think that it's just chocolate flavour. So I like to sprinkle it over their baby chinos sometimes because it's a nice healthy alternative.
So we mix them with organic berries with the vanilla one, and we have those quite a lot. But I guess I've become, and this took time, I've become so familiar now with the range that I'll just tune into my body and do it sort of based upon what my body is telling me. DDR Prime is quite a regular supplement for me because I have experienced injuries. I did a lot of years of Kung Fu. Like I said, I had the back injury and others, and I find DDR Prime is really supportive in my regenerative sort of abilities. And so I'm really enjoying the DDR Prime. Whenever I start to feel quite flat, I go on the Lifelong Vitality Pack, and that's always a great go-to to support myself. It's such a complex array of nourishing ingredients and those supplements and how they put those together. So I use those a lot, and then I just tune into my body. So if my digestive system is needing some support, I'll do the Digest and soft gels. If my immune system is feeling low, I'll go to the On Guard. And so that's the relationship that I've built. But going back to your earlier point about young children and jumping in the car and you've only got a few moments, I think what's helpful is when we start to, like, particularly if we're beginning, to cultivate some strategies that work for us and then memorize them, if you know what I mean. So we just don't have to go, oh, wow, how am I feeling? Oh, I'm feeling this. What's going to work? Oh, I've got to consult this book, like it's too much. But if we know if something works for us, like I can feel, my nervous system can start to feel too wired or overwhelmed. And I know that adaptive helps with that. So if I know that I've already tried that, I can just have that adaptive ready and I go, oh, how am I feeling? Well, I'm really flustered, I'm shaking. I'll take an adaptive. So I think that can be really helpful for people to just cultivate some little habits that work for them and they can draw upon them in the moment. Or the car diffuser. Like I used to remember the chaos of taking children to school and all these random things are happening. And you feel like a level of stress, or there's traffic and there's a level of stress, and you can go, okay, put the diffuser on. And I've got something calming in the diffuser. So again, it's just a really simple tool that people can use. And I feel like once we start to actually just adopt some simple ones, the communication increases with our body and then we can get more creative, if that makes sense. The way that I do it now is highly intuitive and I have a vast array. We've got all the dōTERRA supplements. You walk into every room in our house and all you see is oil bottles, and it's not like, I would love to say that it's all beautifully displayed.
You don't have it in colour coordination.
So it's all over the sink and the bottles are off and the kids have used that one and I've used this one, and so it's all over our house. So we've developed that over a decade though, so that took some time.
And it does take time. I mean, I've been with dōTERRA for 3 and a bit years now, and I am no expert by any means, but I really like that advice that if you just go to those simple steps that make sense for you, it may not be the textbook response to, say, a anxiety relief essential oil or a classically grounding essential oil, but if it works for you, do it. And it's funny you mentioned that, because this morning, when I was getting in the car, in amidst the chaos of a tantruming 2-year-old and a 4-year-old that had to dress like Elsa, so that was fun, I reached for lemon myrtle. And I thought, okay, that's an interesting oil that I just felt like I had to have that in my car diffuser. So I popped it in and I felt the calmness. And I thought about it. I reflected while I was driving to work, and I recognised that in the midst of all the chaos and the craziness of getting here today, feeling that sense of control, lemon myrtle reminds me of the cleaning range. And the cleaning range to me helps me feel like I'm achieving something. So in my mind, lemon myrtle means that I'm okay. In amongst the chaos, I am handling things. So it may not classically be that stress relief type of oil. It's classically very uplifting, but it worked for me in that situation. So I really like that advice. Thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And what you're sort of touching on there too is reminding yourself. And you were saying earlier about feeling yourself again. And I think that's really important, is that the oils, any supplementation, any food that we eat, they're all to support us. But we are the ones that are the determiner of what's occurring within our bodies or within our minds, within our emotions. So our state is our responsibility. And we are really the only people that can fully determine our own state. People can try and support us. We've all fallen into the trap of trying to fix someone or help someone, and then realized ultimately they are the one that is going to determine that. So I think that's really important, that, again, that word reminder, like, oh, wow, I'm just going to catch myself here and remind myself to look after myself, to support myself. And I know in our conversation that I'd like to bring up now on the phone is that there's an energy crisis occurring for people. And the sort of the outcome of that is this rushing and this like grasping and even a seeking. And it's quite stressful for people. And so what happens when there's an energy crisis within our bodies? You know, it's like we don't feel like we've got time for anything. We don't feel like we've got energy for anything. Our relationships get impacted. Our health obviously gets impacted. Our work gets impacted, etc. And so that's something that I'm really passionate about supporting people with. And I think what's the first step is recognition of how I'm feeling. Wow, I'm really feeling overwhelmed, or I'm really feeling like I don't have any energy. And then from there comes like an innate caring of self. Like, hey, I care about myself. And like you said, it's so easy to care about others. It's so easy to look after children or other people and sort of forget about ourselves. And then our ability to look after them depletes because we're depleting. And so, I like that idea of this compassion for self and going, what do I need? And how beautiful that is in that moment, that relationship. And I also find with the body, like working with Pilates for so long, I discovered that bodies have consciousness. So someone might be telling their story and I'm listening to them, definitely, but then I've got my hand maybe on their back or their shoulder where there's pain and their body is telling me another story. And so we have this vessel that I'm very appreciative of because it allows me to move through my life and experience what I experience. But I also like the idea of cultivating a beautiful relationship with my body. Like a mutually beneficial relationship with my body. And I find that my body is very patient most of the time, unless it's really chronic. And it doesn't actually ask for that much. When I really drop into, hey, what do you need? Like this morning, it was like 15 minutes of sunlight would be great. And I got that, stepped out of thank God, Melbourne shone some sunshine. It was wonderful. And I stood in the sunshine and it was beautiful, So and my body was willing to fly on a plane and sleep in a hotel and come here. And there's so much that it provides me with. So I like the idea of providing it with what it needs.
That's beautiful. So speaking of cultivating that beauty within your body, we are here to talk about supplementing your lifestyle. And we've got a very exciting new product that we're launching in Australia and New Zealand, the DigestSense soft gels. What I really love about that particular product is that it's almost a cause and effect style approach to your health. That if you feel the irritation, you feel the irritability, or you might feel a little bit upset in the tummy, I know I've got something that's going to help support all of that going through, just like it did for your beautiful, was it baby girl?
Yes, Tatiana.
So how would you infuse DigestSense soft gels into a practice, for example, if you were struggling, I guess, with irritation of the tummy?
Yeah, good question. I'm so happy to have the soft gels in Australia. The DigestSense is an oil that our family uses pretty much daily, very close to daily. So to answer your question, if I'm feeling that my digestive system or the children are expressing that the digestive system is experiencing a challenge, it's present, then taking the soft gels daily would support that. And that's something that I would help them with. Or I love the idea of responsiveness. So if the children, and it's quite common, the children come in and say, oh, Dad, I've got some discomfort, then we can use the soft gels as a response to that. They've listened to their body is communicating something, and then obviously the soft gels can support that. And then we can get to the bottom of what was the root cause of that discomfort. Was it in their diet, or is there something emotional happening? And so I love that blend of listening, not masking a symptom, not pretending it's not there and trying to cover it up to get on with something like it's an inconvenience, but actually tuning into the body. And then, like you said, it's very responsive. And I love that direct delivery of the oils with the soft gels. It's very convenient to be able to go to the stomach, to the digestive system. And so that's how we would use them in our family.
And that's a really good point as well, that I think with traditional Western medicine, that we're consistently looking for a quick fix. But to your point, if you are going to take a step back after you've help to relieve the discomfort you're possibly experiencing in your tummy, going back a step and saying, why is this happening? What is the root cause? Because as we know, living these fast-paced lifestyles, coming out of the pandemic, especially in Melbourne, our stress levels are high. We are running this marathon, and it's hard to get off the road, so to speak. It's hard to get off that treadmill once you gather that momentum. And that can lead to stomach discomfort. That stress plays a direct link with what's going on inside your tummy and how you respond. Just like if you start to get nervous in front of the camera, for example, and you have to nip to the toilet, that is your gut-brain connection talking right there. It's your gut-brain axis. So I really love the fact that DigestZen helps to support the pain, the irritability that does come from it, but then you need to take that step back and look, is it the food that I'm eating? Is it possibly an intolerance? Is it my emotions? Is it my stress? And what can I do then to support those feelings?
And I love how, like, when my child comes to me, and obviously it's uncomfortable and they're crying, for example, they want to know they can do something. Like you said, the empowerment earlier, like they want to feel like, oh, there's something we can do about this. And so I love how there's this initial natural response that's available, which just gets that ball rolling. And then, of course, like you've got the soft gels and then you've got the oil. I'm also using my connection with my child and my energy and my care, and that's blending with what molecules are doing within their body with the DigestZen to support them. So I think that's a beautiful way to begin an approach. And then there can be an exploration if there needs to be. Sometimes the alleviation takes care of it. Sometimes it was just a little passing, whatever it may have been, and that's been taken care of. And other times there's something more consistent that may need to be looked at, like an intolerance or an emotion that the child's feeling. And I often think too with digestion, there's the digestion of food, but then we are digesting energy through our bodies all day, every day. We're digesting experiences and emotions and things like that. And so, like you said, there's this deeper functioning of the digestive system that needs to be addressed or taken care of. And so, if the kids are going through a lot, or if I'm going through a lot, I'm digesting a lot, I will take the soft gels or apply the oil or drink it in the tea, like we are now, to support myself to do that. It's just a natural part of life.
I don't know if you deliberately did that, but digesting everything that's happening, that is the perfect byline for what we're talking about today.
And we've all been through so much, particularly in the last few years. So we're digesting more than ever before, so to speak. And so it's just natural to me. It's that to me, like health, when you get down to the principles of it, it's not super complicated. I'm digesting a lot. I need support. I love that.
I really appreciate your perspective on this entire way of being. I mean, it can feel so overwhelming a lot of the time. You know you should be doing the right things. You know you should be eating the whole foods. You know you should be moving your body. You know that you should be feeling less stressed and using these essential oils to help calm you. But that step to do the things can sometimes be so too hard. And I really love how you simplify it. Trust your gut.
Totally. And I think one of the challenges is we are bombarded with information. And so it becomes this, I've got a small window of time to find a solution for something. And then, if we go and Google it, oh no, what's going to happen then? We just get smashed with all this information. Then we have to try and discern truth from falsehood within that information. And so as a different approach, going in and cultivating a relationship with the body and with ourselves more deeply, and that's our inner compass. And then I can go, okay, what is the information available to me, or what are some of the tools? But there's an inner compass guiding me, as well as, I can still look at research. I can still look at information. I can still, do all of the necessary steps to make sure that I know what I'm taking. So I loved your point, Jess, about jumping in the car and suddenly we've got children and there's chaos. And so I love talking about how do we care for ourselves then, because I find that we can't just leave it to the end of the day to then look after ourselves. And so that's one thing that I really loved about the oils, because when I first had children, I had to find other ways, more creative ways to take care of myself. I didn't have the endless hours of meditation or Tai Chi that I had before children. And so that's one thing that I love about the oils. And it can be just in a moment, like you're saying about connecting with yourself, like we can still just catch ourselves in the car and take a deep breath and say, where am I right now? Oh, how am I feeling? Oh, I'm a little bit stressed. And then have our simple tools, such as a diffuser in the car, or using a soft gel, or putting an oil on the wrist or something. Like that just takes a few seconds. We can still apply those same principles, but just in a smaller time frame. So I think that's a beautiful way that we can use the oils. And I love the idea of the connection with self can happen in a moment. It can happen in a few seconds. It's just a matter of stopping, pausing, having the intention to feel ourselves, and even ask, like, how could I care for myself right now? And I'm quite sensitive, and I struggled in some early days with children because my partner Anastasia has an amazing capacity, whereas I would be like, I need some help right now. So I had to do that. Like I didn't have a choice. I had to stop. And what I find beautiful with my children is I might stop and take a breath and maybe take my shoes off on the grass for a second, but they'll follow me because our children do what we do, not what we say. And so that's another beautiful practice of just pausing for a moment. What's Mummy up to? What's Daddy up to? Oh, they're taking a breath. And then I found later I'd be driving, and I have had some challenges with cyclists who drive in the road and stop me from taking the kids to school. And so I would feel this frustration, and then my daughter would go, Daddy, just look out the window and take a deep breath.
Oh gosh.
He's just a beautiful man, Dad. And so
isn't that beautiful?
They're feeding back what we've communicated to them, and so we're all helping each other. So I think that's a beautiful way to approach things.
Absolutely, and that's so important to model proper behaviour. And it's okay to feel the feelings, but for the kids to be able to see how you cope
and to
with
see
those
a
feelings.
mum who cares for herself, see a dad who cares for himself, who prioritises herself or himself, because they're going to do that when they're older. And I know I want my children to be doing that. And so that's just another loop, to tie in.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because when Zainab sat on the couch with me a few months ago, we talked about this as well. And she said that conscious parenting isn't about the kids, it's about us.
Totally.
And how we model the appropriate way to deal with those big feelings, to use the resources and the tools that we have available so that they can see it's okay to feel the things, but how do we work through that? So that's really beautiful.
Totally. And even communicating when we have had a moment and they've seen us respond in a way that's not ideal, but we just go back and say, I was feeling really stressed, and when I'm stressed, my nervous system does this and this happens for me. And we're not perfect. So our children, we can have communication with them and discuss what happened. And I think that's important, that we're forgiving of ourselves. We're accountable and we're forgiving.
Oh gosh, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in your home just to be able to learn. So what does a day in the life of Zach look like?
So it can be very diverse, but some of the typical elements. We live in the hinterland of the Gold Coast. Oh. So we fortunately now have a beautiful house that has the early morning light. My day at the moment usually begins with my son Sumi coming in for cuddles. He wakes me up early and we have that beautiful moment together, which is a gorgeous way to begin. I have a commitment to myself that I don't use phones or devices for the first hour, if not two, when I awake. So just feeling sunlight and connecting with the family, and I start with the advantage and some water, and then I do some stretching on the deck. And usually we prepare our children for school. So our daughter goes to a little community school nearby. Our son is still homeschooled. Our eldest goes to another school. But it's just nourishing them and feeding them and creating a choreography of our lives where we're not stressing about rushing to the car or whatever it might be. And so, they usually spend a day wherever they're going to be. I spend a lot of time with my son because, like I said, he's 7 and he's homeschooling and he's very inquisitive, so he's always asking questions.
Are you homeschooling?
Yes. So we have been homeschooling both our youngest for quite a while. And then just recently our daughter said she wants to go back to a little community school that she tried out a while ago before COVID and borders closed and things. So that's all opened back up and she's able to go back there. So we're facilitating that.
Wonderful. So
it's just time in nature and it's connecting, and I'm writing books for children as well at the moment. We share the oils with people. Anastasia and I have a beautiful relationship and we spend a lot of time together. So at the moment, being is really important to me. And while I've got these beautiful young children, I want to soak them up and experience life with them.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. So how would you entwine the supplements, the integrative lifestyle into that day?
Yeah, good question. So there are some things that I think are great if you just set and forget. So for example, if I know I'm taking advantage every morning, then it's there every morning, it goes into a cup, I don't even think about it. So I use that. If I'm feeling like my energy is low, or I'm doing a lot of like travel, or there's a lot of demand on my energy, then I will use the Lifelong Vitality Pack. Again, it's just so simple, just to know that I'm taking that daily dosage of oils and the various supplementation within that pack, which is wonderful to support my body. So I will use that. We're very responsive with our use of the supplementation. So if Sumi comes to me and says, "Hey Dad, I've got a stomach ache," and we know that with traditional Western herbal medicine that the ingredients alleviates the discomfort or supports the digestive system, then we can just use that as an as needs basis. So we will go through our day. I mean, I don't stop using the oils. It's like, oh, frankincense, I put it on my face. Oh, ice blue, I've got a sore shoulder. Oh, Digescent. So basically they're around us all the time, and my body just reaches for them as I need them.
That's beautiful. Now, speaking of creating that whole holistic, integrative, well-being lifestyle, I understand that you have just started up a new company, a new business with your people partner.
It's an organisation that Anastasia and I are launching, which we're really excited about, called Earth Fam. So we've started off with a Instagram profile, which is at Earth Fam, and our inspiration there is to share how we live with other people, and to connect and live with nature, and to be in tune with our bodies, and to prioritize, like we said earlier, our energy and connection with ourselves, and living the life that we innately know we can live. And we're always going to make mistakes, but we just love the idea of advocating that and educating people on how we can go about living that. So there's inspiration, but also education on how do we live that way? How do we live in harmony with our family members? How do we create beautiful relationships? How do we eat well? How do we rest and use like all the tools available to live the life we want to live? And then as part of that, every way we use the oils is just an integrated part of our life now. And so we'll be sharing on there how we use the oils and the supplements in our daily living.
I will be following Earth Fam because I want to be more like Zach. I have learnt that I need to take a bit more of a breath. I need to learn how to refocus and come back to what matters to me and focus on me a little bit more, because I am on that hamster wheel. And I really want to thank you for bringing that gentle perspective back to me, that I need to remember what's important. It's been an absolute treat to have you join us. Thank you. Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, and I love the message of, be more like Zach, in that I've just found a place where I can be more me. And I've created an environment where I can relax into being me. And so, being more Jess, creating a space where, because you've just got this beautiful energy and a beautiful heart, creating a life that feeds that and nourishes that and honors that. I'm glad that's inspired you to do that.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on Uncapped. I hope you too have found some inspiration to uncap that little bottle from nature and see where the inspiration takes you. We're also so excited to announce that we have just launched our Recapped Mindful podcast series that went live at the start of this month. So please click the link on our socials or check it out on our website and find that inspiration in our little bottles of nature. Bye for now.